Welcome to Paxa Rubiana here from the seat of Austrian power. This is the government center with the Foreign Minister, Ministry of Interior, Prime Minister office, and it's the beautiful center of the EU member state, Austria. Since 1995 we are in the EU, and that's very good, but unfortunately we are getting more and more isolated because of the wrong policy of our government. Isolated not completely, they form a new alliance with Mr. Vucic from Serbia and with Mr. Orban from Hungary, the two most detested and isolated persons in Europe, and the last man of Putin. And I have campaigned intensively against both gentlemen, and now Mr. Nehammer, instead of joining NATO, which he knows he should, and he knows it's the good thing to do, and especially it's the thing Alois Mock and Erd Busek and many other leaders of his party would be very happy about if we finally conclude our Western integration. He is going to Budapest to make a populist summit against migration in a desperate effort to somehow trump up support for a failed agenda of extreme right populism. And that's a big disgrace. I think it's really seriously time to consider if the Austrian People's Party under his leadership is still a center right-wing party worthy to be in the EPP. I doubt that. I seriously doubt it. Orban has already left. I called since a long time for the exclusion of and disassociation of the Serbian party, which SNS of Mr. Vucic, because it's by far not a Western party. They have led their country into the abyss of Russian kind of domination. If many promises now to somehow keep the European visa policy, maybe. He is in all key issues, from the sanctions to the military support to Ukraine, to the political questions on the Balkans, to bullying Montenegro, bullying Bosnia, blocking Bosnia, and also then of course Kosovo. He is certainly not on the side of the West, and we have to say that very clearly. And to align with such forces is an utter disgrace. I've now collected 2,000 votes, signatures for NATO membership, and I call for NATO membership. We should join NATO. Here I say is in front of the ministry, which still has no, you see here, no Ukrainian flag, no NATO flag, and the proud UN flag, yes, and the EU flag proudly. But Austria still, dodging all the issues, of course being in the sanctions, but always on the minimum compliance level. And this kind of Tito-esque kind of dodging and somehow playing out everybody and trying to escape, and this kind of Austrian way, it's so annoying. And it's all because of neutrality. We have to join NATO, and we have to form a four-party coalition to lead Austria and NATO of all the serious parties, and exclude obviously the brutal Putinists of the so-called Freedom Party of Mr. Kickl, who is today again at the special session of the Austrian Parliament. If you know German, you can see it on YouTube. He is an utter disgrace of Europe and Austria. He is the spokesperson of Putin in the Austrian Parliament. Yeah? It's an utter disgrace. And Western integration is what we need to do. We should have done that already a long time ago. And that we now, that I have in 2022, now when Sweden and Finland are already in NATO, I have to still convince the political leaders one by one that NATO is the good Western normality, with 93% of the EU citizens already in NATO. I'm really surprised. No, it's the logical thing. We joined the EU together with Finland and Sweden. We should join it together now also NATO. It's so logical, and that's the normal way to do it. I mean, Bosnia and Kosovo would be so happy. Ukraine has applied for NATO. Moldova wants to consider now their neutrality and join NATO. And then we have, of course, Malta with these corrupt socialists. They are not on that line. They want to form a neutral coalition. I get insulted on WhatsApp groups as a kind of adoring NATO enthusiast. I'm very critical to NATO in reality because they have not really helped Ukraine when they could, and they didn't do a no-fly zone and all these things. Yeah, I'm far from being an enthusiast, but it's simply the normality of Europe that we are defended by NATO and we are united by NATO. And I call the EU to join NATO and then to confront the last remaining peripheral neutrals and their kind of founding myths, which is so outrageously wrong, and which is a cover for Russian money laundering in all the countries which are now opposing the sanctions and are making the new sanction package so difficult. Malta, Ireland, Greece as well, Cyprus. It's not a coincidence, of course, Greece is in NATO, but the others are the non-NATO neutrals, yeah, which are then also the centers of Russian money laundering, like Austria is as well. You know, it's so logical. We have to clean up our secret services, gain the trust of the Western allies again, make a real working NATO standard army and support Ukraine, supply it with weapons and also be a serious part of the Western world and not to be a proxy for Putin or Russia or Serbia or China or whatever. Just to be a normal country, I think that can be expected, and Austrians are normal Europeans. There are no superior insight into world peace, or there are no other, flesh blood signs than the rest of the EU citizens. So I ask now for decency and for NATO membership of Austria, and I will continue my relentless campaign for NATO membership, and please support it and support as well Malta, Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia, and all these amazing countries to be united in NATO. Thanks a lot. More to come from Pax Europiana. Bye.